Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey, and every weekday I read one chapter of the Bible and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the book of Genesis, chapter 5. This is the written account of the descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, He made them to be like Himself. He created them male and female, and He blessed them, and He called them human. When Adam was 130 years old, he became the father of a son who was just like him in his very image. He named his son Seth. After the birth of Seth, Adam lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Adam lived 930 years, and then he died. When Seth was 105 years old, he became the father of Enosh. After the birth of Enosh, Seth lived another 807 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Seth lived 912 years, and then he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he became the father of Kenan. After the birth of Kenan, Enosh lived another 815 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Enosh lived 905 years, and then he died. When Kenan was 70 years old, he became the father of Mahalalel. After the birth of Mahalalel, Kenan lived another 840 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Kenan lived 910 years, and then he died. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, he became the father of Jared. After the birth of Jared, Mahalalel lived another 830 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Mahalalel lived 895 years, and then he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he became the father of Enoch. After the birth of Enoch, Jared lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Jared lived 962 years, and then he died. When Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. After the birth of Methuselah, Enoch lived in close fellowship with God for another 300 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Enoch lived 365 years, walking in close fellowship with God. Then one day he disappeared because God took him. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he became the father of Lamech. After the birth of Lamech, Methuselah lived another 720 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Methuselah lived 969 years, and then he died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he became the father of a son. Lamech named his son Noah, for he said, "May he bring us relief from our work and the painful labor of farming this ground that the Lord has cursed." After the birth of Noah, Lamech lived another 595 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Lamech lived 777 years, and then he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. One thought. In the society and culture in which the Bible was written in the ancient Near East, it was very concerned about your lineage. Who your parents were, what family you came from, that would chart your destiny. It was not like modern times where kids often can go off and find themselves and make a new name for themselves. No, you were often locked into the family line. If you were from a royal line, you stayed in that royal line. If you were from a lower class, you stayed in that lower class. And so it mattered who your family was. And in Scripture, we see that there are a lot of genealogies. And in Genesis 5, we more or less have the first genealogy of Scripture. And it can be easy to have our eyes glaze over when we're reading this list of names and how long they lived and all of that. But it's actually shares some really profound insights into the story if we take these genealogies seriously. So why is this here? Why are genealogies in Scripture? Well, first of all, we need to take a step back and realize that genealogies actually structure Genesis chapters 1 through 11. There's a intended structure to these chapters. And we see that there is the story of Adam, and then there's a genealogy from Adam to Noah here in chapter 5. And then there's the Noah narratives in chapters 6 to 9. And then there's another genealogy from Noah to Abraham in chapters 10 to 11, and then in chapter 12, the Abraham narratives kick off. So these genealogies are inserted into the narrative, into the storyline strategically. They're placed here to kind of bracket and show the flow of the story. I think on a theological level, though, it shows that death spreads after the fall. 8 times in this genealogy, the text says, and he died. In verses 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 27, and 31. He died. He died. He died. The repeated formula highlights the pervasiveness of sin, the pervasive consequences of sin. Death spreads to all men because all have sinned. God promised Adam and Eve that if they disobeyed him, they would surely die. And not only did they eventually die, but that curse of death spread to all their descendants. All people now labor under that curse of death. And yet we see one example of grace in these genealogies in the life of Enoch. Even in Genesis, where brother murders brother, where death reigns, grace shines through. And it shines through in Enoch's life. He walks with God. And apparently then he avoids death, and God just takes him to himself. We don't know why Enoch did, why God did that, but he just took Enoch to himself. And so even in the darkest moments of the story, God sheds his grace upon his image bearers. And this is most clearly exemplified by Jesus. Right? Jesus walked with God even better than Enoch ever did, because Jesus was completely obedient to the Father. But God did not just take Jesus to himself. No, Jesus willingly went and tasted death, and then he died. And he did that all for us, for you, so that he may open a way for us to get to God, and so that one day we might live forever.